Welcome to the Sharing the Heart of the Matter podcast. Join us as we celebrate the brilliance of authors, storytellers, and creators. I'm Wynne Leon, and in this inspiring episode, Vicki Atkinson and I are talking with authors Amy Goober and Gwen Borden about their book, My Mother Always Says, 25 Lessons for Finding the Silver Lining. Amy is an action coach. As she inspires people to make changes in their lives, she finds that she quotes her mom's wisdom over and over again. So she paired up with her 93-year-old mom, Gwen, to record the lessons for finding the silver lining in whatever life throws your way. Gwen has weathered the Great Depression, the polio epidemic, World War II, 9/11, and the early death of her husband. Her mantra remains, there are no bad experiences, only ones you don't learn from. Amy and Gwen bring their powerful mixture of personal stories and relatable anecdotes to help reframe your past, navigate relationships, manage the challenges of parenthood, define happiness, and flip the script on the obstacles we face in life. This is a fantastic episode featuring two amazing and inspiring guests on a mission to help others find their silver linings. We know you'll love it. Hi, Amy. Hi, Gwen.
Hi.
So good to see you. It's so fun to have you both here to talk about your book, My Mother Always Says. And Vicki and I are just delighted to have this conversation.
We are. It was wonderful to read your book, and we've got oodles of notes about things that inspired us. So we're happy to spend time with you and share the glory about your stories.
Great.
So true. So I love what Amy says in the introduction. As someone who has had the good fortune to hear her teachings over the years, though like any good daughter, I didn't always appreciate the true value at the time.
True enough.
I can tell you with confidence that she's right. Amy, can you tell us how you came to appreciate your mom's wisdom and give us an elevator pitch for the book?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I think most children push against what their parents are telling them to do or not do. I think that's kind of natural way to kind of separate and become independent. So I don't think it was anything more dramatic than that. But I mean, the book itself, to me, the reason why we wrote the book was because I found myself quoting my mother all the time, more and more and more and more. And so now I'm 65, she's 93. And so over the last like 5 to 8 years, I just found I was always saying, well, as my mother would say, and my mother always says, and I said, I have to share these sayings and these life lessons with everybody else because I use them all the time. So if I'm using them, shouldn't everybody else have access to them? So it was more of like a gift to try to help people get through the struggles in life and to perceive their life situations in a positive way. And then we just took it and ran with it from there. But as far as an elevator pitch, the book is really part memoir and part self-help. The memoir is the story of this amazing 93-year-old, and it starts when she's born in 1931. Amazing. She's born during the Great Depression. Who have you talked to recently that can talk about the Great Depression? Nobody. So, you know, that's all to me. That's all the pitch it really needs. But basically, it's her story. The beginning of every chapter is part memoir, so it's her story. And it's the lessons learned during that period of her of time. She talks about the lesson, and then I talk about the lesson. So it really has like a lot of different angles to it.
Very fortunate. I'm like Zelig. I happen to have been involved in life during the great historical episodes of our time. But besides that being the Great Depression, it was also the worst polio epidemic in the United States. And my sister had polio.
Yes.
So I was born into a polio family with a mother who used the Kenny system with great education, mind you, went against the whole medical organization when everybody was putting their children into braces. My mother had my sister swimming in a bathtub with family members. So when Pearl Harbor came, I was 10 years old. I was in school. We moved to Norfolk, Virginia, which was the biggest naval base on the East Coast. I was around when the Twin Towers went down. I was
Yes.
doing bereavement work then, and that was only the beginning of the tip of the iceberg with the whole first responders from New York City all became clients of mine because I was
Yeah.
right there
Right.
and
Yeah.
they knew me. But in the middle of these great dramatic episodes, inadvertently, unplanned, spontaneously,
Yes.
Right.
just happened to be there.
You listed the historical challenges, but you also had personal challenges, like
Well,
your
I
first.
think I think we all have personal
Yeah.
challenges. But when you hold them up against the whole landscape, what was World War II like? How many people do you know
Mhm.
who were Girl Scouts during World War II and
Right.
Yeah.
collected tinfoil? I mean, I was right in the middle. I thought that was
Yeah.
my war.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and
So
what's remarkable about the book that you two created is that I could go find a book, Gwen, that tells those stories. But what you've done is bring them forward with that overlay of how it affected you personally. And then, Amy, in every chapter, you're bringing something forward that brings, not just your
Mhm.
mom's insights about the experiences that are described or the events, but you're bringing your insights about how to take that lesson learned from your mom's experience and then apply it no matter how old the reader might be or what generation they're from. So I think it just the readership for this really is anyone with a pulse.
Right. Right.
and there's something timeless about mother-daughter relationships.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
True.
So
True.
profound.
Agree.
You don't have too many relationships that, in other words, I gave birth to Amy. She gave birth to this book.
Oh,
So
She did.
good.
And what happened? So who would have guessed that this tiny 5 pound, 7 ounce baby girl was going to turn out to be this life coach who
Mhm.
was able to focus and distill information from the raw material of my life?
Mhm.
yeah. And
That's
so
true.
organically, because Amy, you talked about these lessons from your mom, her voice coming up just naturally in your coaching role.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, I really ought to organize this because Gwen's coming through, right? And how to put that together.
And even in my personal life, it was
Yeah.
just, I just said it all the time. It's like somebody says, I have to go to the supermarket. I was just constantly saying it to a point where I thought,
Yeah.
if I can utilize these sayings, if it's
Mhm.
so top of mind
Hmm.
for me, shouldn't I share that? And now you all know it, and everyone else who's read the book knows it. And when
Right.
you come up against something, you can refer back to it, or you'll remember. There might be
Mhm.
one or two or three of the 25 that people really absorb, and then they have
Yeah.
them.
Mothers should realize their children are listening to everything they
Mm.
Mm.
and they're watching everything you do.
Right.
You
Yeah.
don't have to lecture, you simply have to be doing what you're doing.
Mm.
And these little sponges take it all in.
That's true. But what's interesting, Gwen, is that you pull out life lessons. You parented so differently than your parents parented you.
Ab-
What's the secret to mining life experiences that we hope our kids never have?
Well, I'm a great believer in modeling with negative modeling. I spent a lot of my growing up years saying I'll never be like my mother. I won't do what she does. I will be a different kind of mother. So
Mhm.
her modeling was a negative policy that turned out to be a positive one because you can learn from what you don't want to do.
Mhm.
Because you have other teachers in life. You have your own teachers, you have family members, you go to the movies, you go to theater, you have teachers at college, you have other people who model what aspects of motherhood do you want for yourself? But it
Mhm.
doesn't have to necessarily be your birth mother or
Right.
your birth father.
Right.
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 Yeah.
As you said in the book, other people can parent you.
Right.
Without a doubt.
And Amy, as an action coach, I mean, you're getting people to take it, reimagine their lives, reinvigorate their lives. And your mom has done that over and over through her life. I mean, it's a constant inspiration. Um,
Right. And I think, I have three adult children, two are daughters, one's a son. And I think it's really important to me that my daughters especially see that, you can reinvent yourself all the way along. It doesn't mean that what you're doing at the moment is trivial. It just means it's a step on the path. And I think a lot of the young people today are very caught up in like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do with my life? What's my major going to be? What am I going to, yeah. And I think really a lot of it unfolds in front of you. It's whether you see things as opportunities.
Yeah.
It's all a
Yeah.
journey, and very few people, if they're lucky, end up where they began.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel
And I
sorry
think,
for the person who ends up where that person began.
Right.
yeah, and to give yourself the grace and flexibility, like you said, Amy, to allow the unfolding to happen and also to trust. And, I love the adages, that come, in every chapter. And one that really jumps out at me related to what you're both saying is in chapter 5, Amy, you wrote, be afraid, but do it anyway. And so sometimes I think people have the inclination to do what you did, go from a very successful entrepreneur with a bakery and venture forth into something else. And I think that, cooking without a recipe, Gwen, I hear your words coming through there, but that bravery, yes?
Well, if you're not afraid of cooking, some people never learn to cook because they're
True.
afraid of cooking,
Yeah.
afraid they'll do something wrong. If you
Mhm.
don't have a recipe and you try to trust literally your gut,
Yeah.
of what you like to eat, you'll end
Mhm.
up loving cooking and being a good cook. But you
Yeah.
have to be willing to say, there is no one way to do something.
Mm.
Always
Right.
an alternative way. There's always another road to take, and there's
Yeah.
always the thing to hit back against, because to be an iconoclast is better than being a duty-bound citizen in my book.
Well,
Mhm.
and I think, the be afraid but do it anyway, it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So we all
Mhm.
think that everything has to be perfect and we just don't want to be, have like any feeling. You know what? Just get used to being uncomfortable. And if you
Yeah.
say, well, okay, so I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'm still going to do X, Y, Z. And what I
Yeah.
always say is it's not, it doesn't have, don't go, you don't have to go start a business. I mean, there's so many women that are so tight in their world, especially midlife women. It can
Mhm.
be small, medium, or large. It can be as little as, you go to a yoga class and you say to the woman next to you, do you want to go for coffee? For a
Yeah.
lot of women, that's hard, right?
Mhm.
But it's small. And
Yeah.
then could be going, taking a course or going on a trip or trying something new and
Mhm.
I'm getting out of this relationship. I'm
Yeah.
moving. I'm going to, start volunteering. I'm going to do something else. So I think it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable and just realize, look, I have a lot of times where I say, oh boy, I'm pretty anxious right now. I'm a little bit nervous. Oh boy, I can't, like, how did I get myself in this position? Well,
Right.
here I am. I'm just going to have to do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
hard. Everything's hard.
And
Right.
Yeah.
how many times, Amy, have you said to yourself, what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Failing is not such a worst thing that happens.
Well, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
not failing. It must
Failing
be
can be a
your,
good,
it is.
can be
Yeah.
a good.
Mhm.
Right.
Right. Right. Well, I was just talking to a friend that, we sometimes think that to grow older is to not be vulnerable when it's really the inverse, right? We practice being vulnerable so that we can try over and over and over again these new things.
Mhm.
Well, I think you better get used to being vulnerable,
Yeah.
because we are in the middle of a great world and we are little tiny specks. One of the things we learn that help us is how unimportant we really are in the universe, and
Right.
how little we really count in the universe.
Mhm.
However, that doesn't mean we don't make an impact. If we make ourselves so important that if we do this, it will ruin my family, or my husband won't like it, or my sister won't like it, or my daughter won't like it, you won't do anything.
And
You're
I
always
think that's one of the things that, whether it was by design or it's just the experience that I had reading, all of the things that you two offer, it has a really nice cumulative effect. The lessons kind of stack and they point toward bravery, building resilience, learning from the past, and really pushing forward because it is our one life. And
Right.
I think it comes through whether you intended that or not. All the messages really come from the heart and it speaks to what you both feel very deeply.
Yeah. And I think, Otherwise, why do it? We had a
Yeah.
version of the book where before we added the memoir, and it was just the lessons. And my mother and I each gave an example. And then my mother said, I think we really need the story to glue it all together. And she was right. So I was like, okay. So, okay. So we start over and we do that. I had somebody, I had like just 2 or 3 early readers who read it and said, it's all great, but we'd like to hear more from you, Amy. And I was like, okay. So I rewrote all of my parts, the 25 parts and, so, but they were right. And it's better and it's more vulnerable and it's more transparent and it's meatier and just better. So, it's also okay to keep perfecting things, but at some point, you have to be finished with it. And we had all different people saying, well, you could keep going and you could, and I was like, we're done. Now we're done.
Yes, right.
We're done with that book.
Well, that's right. It's more about getting the book published. People sit on things, people sit on things forever because it's just not just right. And if you don't, at some point, I had a deadline. So I run big women's events. And my mother has spoken at them in the Boston area. My mother had spoken out at them for like a year and a half. And I kept trying to get this book done so that we could be at an event. There's a standing ovation. And now we have the book. And finally, at the end of April, which is only a month ago, we had the book, we had the event. My mother spoke and I was like, okay,
Yay.
for something, it'll just sit on your desk forever.
Right.
She's very goal oriented.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love
That's a good thing.
We're a very good team, but she is oriented, and I'm always in the process of things happening.
Well, but you're a good partnership in that way.
It's worked.
Yeah.
Not always harmonious, but it's worked.
No, but I can feel Amy's ambition because she's thinking this is good, on to the next. There are more people to help, there are other stories to tell. One of the things that you wrote, Amy, I think it was in chapter 7, about when you were describing kind of rewriting your parts and the vulnerability. I love that you did that. And there's just a small mention just about women and vulnerability, about body image and all of that stuff that's so relatable, the ways we beat ourselves up. So I'm grateful to you that whether that came up when you went back and, rewrote, so good. It's so good. But you wrote, writing about worries, it's a productive technique for reducing anxiety because it makes them concrete. And I'm sure that comes through when you're in your like coaching mode too, that it's what you two have done is a good mental health thing.
Right. And I think in general, there's like a pretty much generally lack of self-awareness in the world. People just go out there and do and say things and they have no sense of how it's perceived. So it was interesting to me that my early readers said, what more can you add? And now people will say, we just did a radio interview and they said, boy, you really shared, or boy, you really were transparent. I was thinking, yikes, I didn't overshare. But
no.
What you said is true. If you can help one person, if one person reads it and said, okay, somebody gets me, it's worth it.
Yeah, because life is not perfect.
Right.
No.
Right. And we
so good.
We love
statement of the universe that life is not perfect.
Right.
Yes.
We love the wisdom. There are no bad experiences in life, only ones you don't learn from. I mean, that's so good.
I raised my children. I kept telling them that there were no bad experiences because I think the tendency very often is to say, look what you did, that's bad.
Yeah.
To say, look what you did, what can we make of it? Because it's only a little piece of the stepping stone that is called the journey of life. So these errors are all gifts. They're teaching tools for us to learn different ways to do things.
Yeah.
And we often learn
perspective.
more from bad experiences than we do from good.
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me of something, and forgive me for jumping in about that, but Gwen, what you just said was also one of my favorite things in the whole book. It was like your closing wisdom with number 25. You wrote, nothing improves with age, but maturity and experience can improve your attitude. And I was like, yeah.
Well, it can improve your attitude, but you're never really done with that.
Yeah.
I think we are unfinished creatures.
I love it.
I had a very good friend who was a social worker, but she'd been a nun before, and she was a Buddhist. She was one of the most spiritual people I ever knew. And Peggy said, I sometimes think that dying is like maybe being born. You don't know what it's going to be like before you're born, come into a world you don't have any preparation for. And
Mhm.
so maybe death is that way. And I thought, I love that.
Yes.
Let's make it sound more like an adventure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Right.
sound so bad to say it's like being born, which is
Right.
difficult enough, but it has possibilities. It has something that you could look forward to.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
helps to have
Yeah.
something that you make up yourself to make things palatable and possible.
Mm. Those are two P words I love, palatable and possible. Writing that down too. Yes.
I never, when I was growing up as a little girl, Shirley Temple was the great icon.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, forget it. Here I am. All I wanted was blonde curly hair, dimples. That's all I wanted. And as you can see, I got none of those things.
They can't really see your real hair color, but you did
But
not
my
have.
real hair color is brown. And I used to
I,
sleep with rags in my hair. I thought the curls will come. I would poke the dimples never came. What I got instead of curly hair and dimples and tap dancing and singing was I got this gift
yeah.
of
Yeah.
eternal optimism, always thinking everything will be all right, always
Oh,
believing things will work out. And that was a gift. You
yeah.
either born with the glass half empty or the glass half full. My glass was always overflowing, no matter
Yeah.
what was happening to me in my life.
Yeah.
So that was the gift instead of the curly hair.
Well, there are some beautiful pictures in the book, so I'm going to take exception with what you just said. You
Oh,
both, the photos that you share are so lovely, especially the one of Bill's bar mitzvah from
yeah. Oh,
1974. I felt like I was time traveling,
Yeah.
right?
yeah. I
And
was,
then one of you traveling, Gwen, I think it was in 1979. So, I mean,
well, you
look
know,
pretty great to me.
I didn't say I didn't look good. All I said
Mm,
was I didn't have the blonde curly hair and the
no,
dimple.
no.
Yeah.
But you didn't need that, did you? Mm,
Thought that was the
Yeah.
passport, but I was wrong. The
yes.
passport was
Yeah.
magical thinking. The
Yeah.
passport was thinking well of yourself and
Mhm.
not being afraid.
Oh,
Fearlessness was the great gift.
yeah.
So much for blonde hair and so much for curls.
Well,
Well,
as a
blonde hair.
Well, everyone's got blonde hair now, but I mean, so much for what we think at 5 is important. I think that's the thing to remember is
Yeah.
what we think when we're very young is very often totally erroneous.
Right.
That's where the wisdom of growing older comes in. That experience teaches us there are many, many, many roads to happiness in this world. There are
Hmm.
many people we can love in this world who can love us in this world.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and the serendipitous things that happen, readers will have to just jump in and embrace. But the story about loss, with your first husband, Glenn
Yeah.
Seymour, and that, happening so unexpectedly. But
Mhm.
then also a story that you both share about, what was an innocent fall turned into a big medical reveal, for you, Gwen. And sometimes you just have to embrace the things that come
Mhm.
because your story is, like Amy said, it's unfolding. But those pieces were also so heartfelt.
Well, you know something, again, there are no bad experiences, just the ones. My husband, my first husband, because I have since remarried. I mean, I am in a second marriage of 44 years, lest you
Yeah.
think it was a short-lived, it's still going on. My husband is 98,
Mhm.
and I'll be 94 in July. But my first husband was not lucky. He
Mhm.
died at
Yeah.
49, a healthy, strapping, tall, handsome, successful man, never sick a day in his life.
Mhm.
So we all worry about the wrong things, was the lesson I learned from that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and Amy, you were just 15 when that happened. And, both
Oh,
of you in the storytelling, were impacted by that great loss, but you found your way kind of to higher ground, as a result, doing things that were unique to following your paths.
I think it's
Yeah.
also important to remember there's something to be learned from that. People felt, my pediatrician met me one day on my way to the hospital, and she said, Gwen, I feel so bad for you and the children. It's so bad. I said, don't feel bad for us. We are going to be all right. Feel bad for that man who's dying in the prime of his life.
Mhm.
However, it also occurred to me, and I have no reason to say I was wrong. He died at the top of his life He never knew failure. He never knew sickness, ailments. He never took an aspirin with that damn tumor, and he never knew failure. So to die at the top of your life, it's like to the athlete dying young. There is a virtue to dying young in this life too. It spares you because everyone does not have a good old age.
Yeah.
For people who really are infirm, lose their other skills. They can't see, they can't hear, they can't think. He had none of those. He didn't die that way. So there was for him, a plus that he died at the top of his game.
Yeah.
Some people never have the top of their game to keep.
Yeah.
That was a positive for me. For him, that was a positive.
Well, as a congenital optimist, I can agree with you that the gift of eternal optimism is a wonderful gift, and I really feel like this book helps make everybody more optimistic and more positive. You guys really have packed so much in.
And don't you need that? Don't we need that? And that's really the thing, I
Yeah.
think, is that it's optimism with a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just skip along and be like, we're happy. You know, we
Right.
say, well, this happened, but here's how we're getting out of it. And this happened, but this is the path we took. So I think it's optimism with a foundation and an explanation. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a Hallmark movie where everything's
No.
always going to work out no matter, you know, so I think there's that. I don't want people to think that it's just, you know, like a skipping along scenario. We talk about a lot of really hard things in the book, but how we sort of came out on the other side.
Right.
Well, and I think one of the things I appreciated about it, anytime I read a book in this genre, one of my tests is, will I go back to it for inspiration? And I think the way you two put it together, it's not a one and done. It's something that you would want to keep on your bedside table, read, reread, because you both come through, you know, in such a powerfully, you know, present way that you're near. And I think it's very, very rereadable as a tool and a resource.
Thank you.
And I
You're
think
welcome.
that is a good example for our children and our grandchildren, and maybe our great-grandchildren, that through the generations, you continue to pass on wisdom and knowledge and
Yeah.
experience, and you can enjoy that together. So
Yeah.
learning from each other, I learned how to love from my children. They taught me how to really love. I never knew what real love was until I had children. You can't get that experience any other way. Maybe from a puppy, but I mean, it's better from your children. And to watch them grow into adulthood and have their own children and watch how they pass on this legacy of the family, this legacy of the people from whom we came, because we can learn from all their hardships and all their glories. And there are many in every family.
Yeah. The phrase intergenerational goodness comes to mind. You two are serving that up.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that my mother's always saying, because we've been on the podcast and we've done some in-person events, and she's always saying to people, you know, go talk to your parents, go talk to your aunt, go talk to someone who's older than you are, go ask them what their life was like, go talk to them. And so then I say, for the people who still have elders in their life, then I say the same thing, go talk to them, because you know, it's a resource that we don't always realize is fleeting. Like, don't sit around waiting. Go talk to those people.
I mean, my grandmother, my grandmother, who I adored, was very, very ill as I was leaving for my first trip to Europe in 1953. And I went to the hospital to see her because I knew she wasn't going to live, and I didn't want to leave. I didn't go. And this woman said to me, Gwen, I was the first person in this family to come here voluntarily. You are the first person to leave voluntarily. You go and do it for all of us.
Oh,
Who can deny a grandmother who says that to you?
well, and you wrote a little bit about that in the book, right? So that for more about that, I think, yeah, that was a pretty powerful piece because you didn't want to leave her.
No, but then look at the message she gave me that catapulted me and
Mhm.
gave me permission to go. As a matter of fact, a mission to go. Now,
Oh,
that kind of legacy from
yeah.
a dying grandmother who had such a hard life. I mean, I'm not going to go into her life, but was such an example to all of us. I remember her sending me to go as the first one to go voluntarily. I mean, not like people who were drafted and go during a war.
Right.
So she sent me off in a good way, and she died when I was in Rome. and I wept my tears in Rome, but I said, my grandmother wanted me to do this.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
feel
Beautiful.
good about that. I feel good about that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
hope my grandchildren feel the same way about the good wishes I wish for them as they reach out and yearn and climb and try different things.
Right.
So
Mm.
good.
A legacy of love and adventure. You guys, Amy and Gwen, thank you so much for taking the time with us. It was such a pleasure to talk with you about your book.
Pleasure to meet both of you, and thank you for the appreciation you have shown our book.
Oh,
Mm.
heartfelt and true, and we wish you all the best as you go out and sing the virtues of your stories. It's just
Yes.
very powerful, and we wish you nothing but love and good stuff.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Our music is composed for Sharing the Heart of the Matter by the exquisitely talented duo of Chad Canfora and Rob Koenig. For show notes and more great inspiration, please visit our site at sharingtheheartofthematter.com.